You are listening to the 10-Minute Off-Road Podcast, the podcast for the off-roader with the short attention span.
Episode 109. I'm feeling good vibrations. This morning I walked down the street and I was hit by a violin, then a clarinet, then a French horn. Yeah, I think it was an orchestrated attack. Hello and welcome to the 10-Minute Off-Road Podcast. I'm your host, Nicky G. I'm here to inform, entertain, and delight your ear holes with all things off-road. Now, I can never do that in one breath. For the next 10 minutes or so. Why 10 minutes? Because that's how long it's going to take for my pretzel bites to come out of the toaster oven. And yeah, it's a tradition. I heat up pretzel bites before I record this show because I do not want to record it on a podcast. I do not want to record it on an empty stomach because I don't want you to hear my grumblies. Now's the portion of the show where I turn it over to my enslaved AI interns to give you all the legal mumbo jumbo. So take it away, enslaved AI interns.
This episode is brought to you by nobody. There is no sponsors. Nobody is paying for this. Nicky G does it all by himself, and it shows.
You're listening to the 10-Minute Off-Road Podcast, the podcast for the off-roader with a short attention span.
You can follow the 10-Minute Off-Road Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, but never on TikTok. You can listen to the 10-Minute Off-Road Podcast on whatever the hell you're listening to it on now, including Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Spotify, Odyssey, Podbay, Podchaser, Pocket Cast, iHeartRadio, and on YouTube.
Got something to say? We would love to hear from you. Just contact the 10-Minute Off-Road Podcast at 10minuteoffroad@gmail.com. That's 10minuteoffroad@gmail.com. Or leave a comment on our YouTube channel.
Thank you, AI interns. You're worth every penny. So hello, welcome to the podcast. This is probably going to be the last one for the year. I might squeak out another one sometimes by the end of December. Well, let's face it, with the holidays coming, it gets pretty busy and crazy. And I don't get paid to do this. I'm no Joe Rogan. But I digress. This week I want to talk about vibrations. If anybody had a lifted Jeep in their life, and I'm not sure if it's common with other lifted vehicles, you've dealt with the vibrations before, unwanted vibrations. Driveline ones are the worst. Luckily, I've been fortunate that I never really had a bout with driveline vibrations, although my Wrangler kind of gets a little wiggly. It's got a little bit of vibrations in it, but it's hard to pinpoint it down because that thing is so ragamattagged and molested before I even got to it. And I'm in the process of undoing everything that the previous owners have done and trying to do it semi-right. You know, I do have redneck roots, so things kind of get out of hand sometimes. Every once in a while, I just got to step back and check myself and say, hey, this is not really the right way to do it. But I digress. I was recently talking with somebody about vibrations, and it got me thinking. Haven't really talked about vibrations and how to deal with them. I guess the first thing to do is isolate your vibration. Is it in the front end or is it in the drive line? Front end, you would feel it in the steering wheel, and if it might even be in the rear end. I don't know how you track that down, but if you have vibration in your steering wheel, a little diagnostics will go a long way. Pay attention to when it vibrates. Does it happen when you're at a certain speed going over a bump? Does it happen only when you apply the brakes? Vibration in the front end could be something as simple as your tires out of balance to front end alignment needing done, or you just have worn out parts. And don't get vibration confused with death wobble, where death wobble is a little bit more serious, although worn out parts can manifest as vibration and then go on to death wobble. The vibrations I want to talk about the most are driveline vibration. To me, those seem to be the hardest to diagnose and get rid of. Although it's the simplest parts. There's only so many parts in your driveline that, you can rule it out. Most being which is the drive shaft. A lot of people first experience driveline vibrations right after they put a lift on their vehicle. And rightfully so, when you lift a vehicle, it throws out your geometry out. Your rear axle is no longer in the correct geometry with the transfer case. So you have to shim your rear axle to get the driveline correct. And I'm not sure if you have to do that with the front axle either. The front axle on the Jeep is like a double cardigan, so it could take a little bit. It's a little bit more forgiving when it comes to vibration. But so the first thing to do is check your drive shaft naturally, because that's where your vibration's more than likely coming from. U-joints. Are the U-joints on the drive shaft in good shape? If they're not, that'll cause a vibration. Is the drive shaft balanced? See if you have some drive shafts have a weight welded onto it. Make sure see if you're not missing that, or if your drive shaft's not dented or creased. I have seen a creased and smashed drive shaft. I have done it before. It's an interesting sight. But make sure your drive shaft's not altered in any way. A transfer case drop will help eliminate the driveline vibration. And the ultimate best way, it's a little pricey, although not too expensive, and a little bit more work, but the slip yoke eliminator. Get rid of that slip yoke on your drive shaft. Your drive shaft has a pocket with teeth in it, and it goes over a toothed shaft or a splined shaft. And as your Jeep goes up and down and over bumps and the suspension compresses, it allows that yoke to go in and out and move with the suspension travel. You do a slip yoke eliminator where it just goes U-joint to U-joint, and there is no slip yoke. There's not, and I'm not sure how it handles suspension travel. I know a lot of the drive shafts have double cardigan joints, which when I did a slip yoke on my XJ, I just took the front drive shaft off another X-Ray, used it as a rear drive shaft, and that works great. But on the TJ, that rear axle is so short, I got a feeling I'll probably, if I do a slip yoke eliminator on it, I'll probably have to go with a new drive shaft, which, not that bad of a deal. And then when you get a new drive shaft, custom drive shaft made, you can specify what joints you want and need on it. So you can go with beefy U-joints and all kinds of weird stuff. But if you put a new drive shaft on and make sure your drive shaft angles are correct, chances are you'll do away with your driveline vibration. If you ignore driveline vibration and decide to just it's not really rattling my fillings out, I can just drive with it as it is, it's going to rear its ugly head somewhere. Your transfer case is going to explode. Your transmission, I don't know if your transmission will or not, but I know all the vibration and stuff will kind of just waller out your bearings on your drive shaft, on the output shafts. And, that's no bueno. It's a lot easier to replace the drive shaft than it is the transfer case innards. So the moral story, and to wrap this episode up, don't ignore vibrations. They're going to rear their ugly head. Many different kind of vibrations. Engine vibration, forgot all about that. Engine mounts and transmission mounts worn out could cause some vibration. But so if you got a vibration, just check it out. There's only a few places where it can happen. An ounce of preventative maintenance will save a pound of agony later. I can't think of what it is. It's like an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. That's it. All right, so until next time, this is Nikki G saying, wheel what you got and be happy.